26th of February 1979, Queen Elizabeth II officially opens Dubai's first skyscraper. It is the Sheikh Rashid Tower, later known as the Dubai World Trade Center. VisualPolitik community, at the time, it was the tallest tower in the whole of the Middle East. The amazing thing? That it was erected in the middle of the desert, in a place where, as you can see, there wasn't much of anything. So the operation didn't seem to make much sense. Nevertheless, it was quite a statement of intent. With 39 floors and at 184 meters, that's over 600 feet high. This skyscraper made clear the intentions of the new Dubai that was beginning to take shape, to become a key center for business in the Middle East. That was the goal. Today, 5 decades later, that dream has come true. Dubai has become one of the greatest examples of transformation, development, and economic success in history. And no, these are not just words. These days, this Emirates city is home to the world's tallest building, the largest shopping mall on the planet, some of the most luxurious hotels, and one of the largest international airports, a world-scale megaport, and nearly 400 skyscrapers. That means that since the Dubai World Trade Center opened, Dubai has built nearly 10 new skyscrapers every year. And that's not all. Dubai also tops the list for having the most super tall skyscrapers in the world. That is, towers over 300 meters, or 900 feet tall. No other city even comes close. And above all, it has become a real magnet for attracting tourists, companies, and businesses from all over the world. And if Dubai's history is dazzling, Singapore's is not far behind. This city-state is one of the richest, most prosperous, and successful metropolises in the world. In the last 6 decades, and despite having fewer than 6 million inhabitants, it has gone from being a poor place to becoming an important financial, industrial, and commercial center. As a result, Singapore has become one of the wealthiest and most developed countries in the world. In terms of GDP per capita, and excluding microstates, the IMF ranks it as the 4th richest country on the planet. We're talking about an estimated GDP per capita for 2023 of more than $90,000. And take note, because this city, despite its tiny size, has one of the best equipped armed forces on the planet. For example, Singapore has more fighter planes than the air forces of countries such as Canada, Sweden, or the Netherlands. Crazy. Whichever way you look at it, the figures of these two metropolises are incredible. In fact, the Globalization and World Cities Research Network ranks them as no less than 2 of the 9 most influential and economically significant cities in the world. They are only 1 step behind New York and London, the 2 great world capitals. Look at this. And precisely for that reason, here on VisualPolitik, we've already told you in several videos how Dubai and Singapore managed to take off and become real economic, commercial, and financial rockets. Basically, we're talking about 2 cities that became kind of company cities. In fact, it is no coincidence that the airports of these 2 cities rank among the busiest worldwide. For instance, in 2019, the last year before the pandemic, Dubai Airport moved 97.3 million passengers, and Singapore moved 68.3 million. You will see that this is no accident. As it happens, we failed to notice one of the crucial elements of this whole process, the conversion of the governments of these 2 cities into true entrepreneurs. And the question is, to what extent was government entrepreneurship important in the growth and development of these 2 major economic hubs? What exactly are we talking about when we say that the governments of these cities were truly entrepreneurial? Can the model that has been so successful in Dubai and Singapore be exported to other less wealthy places? VisualPolitik community, in this second video of the series we are preparing in collaboration with Harvard International Review, we answer all these questions. We'll leave you more information in the links in that description. So without much further ado, let's get started.
Pillars in the sand, from the desert to the world.
In 1997, Mohammed Al-Abar, former Director General of the Department of Economic Development of Dubai, was given an assignment to found Emaar Properties. Today, one of the most recognized and most visible brands in all of Dubai. Its name is everywhere, and that's hardly surprising given the fact that it is the developer that has carried out the largest projects in this city. The development of downtown, the Burj Khalifa, the Dubai Mall, Dubai Marina, and many of the luxury hotels. We're talking about a company that has developed most of the projects that have shaped the current Dubai. Practically everything that is characteristic of this city has been promoted by Emaar. But who is behind this developer? Well, as many of you can imagine, the commission to start up this company came from the government of the Dubai Emirate itself. The same government that in 2000 listed the company on the local stock exchange and that currently still controls almost 30% of a company that over the years has become a multinational. Today, Emaar has activities in a lot of different countries, thanks to which it had a net profit of almost $7 billion in 2022. But of course, the company's crown jewel remains Dubai, a city where projects keep coming. One of its latest major projects is precisely the development of Dubai Creek Harbour, a huge new district that, in the coming years, is sure to become one of the city's major attractions. Incidentally, most of the government's participation is channeled through ICB, the Investment Corporation of Dubai, the investment muscle of the Dubai government, which, in addition to Emaar, controls or has investments in many other companies. In fact, the Investment Corporation of Dubai has had a lot to do with the success of this city. So, you see, we are talking about an investment arm of the government that controls assets worth more than $300 billion. It owns or has stakes in many of the main local companies, such as the Emirates NBD Bank, the Dubai Islamic Bank, the airlines Emirates and Fly Dubai, along with the developer Emaar, which we have already mentioned, as well as more than 60 companies in which it has total or partial stakes. So where does the money they invest come from? Well, basically, from issuing debt, reinvesting profits, and public account surpluses. But the most interesting thing is that over the years, the government of Dubai has used this partnership to promote business in the city or to cover those areas that are important for general development. Yet it did so following a strict market policy. The companies participating or promoted had to and have to be competitive, not only in Dubai, but they must be able to compete in the international market. This would generate sufficient profits to enable this vehicle to continue investing in new projects. A good example is the case of Emirates. It is clear that in 1979, when the Dubai World Trade Center was inaugurated, Dubai had a clear problem. It was isolated from the world. Who would want to make a long journey to reach such an inhospitable place? However, if you want to become a financial, tourist, and commercial center, you need one thing: communications. To solve this problem, in March 1985, the Emirate of Dubai created Emirates, an airline that would revolutionize intercontinental air transport and make this city emirate one of the best connected enclaves on the planet. It doesn't matter if you want to fly to Tokyo, Sydney, or London. In Dubai, you always have connections. To achieve this, in early 1985, the Dubai government gave British entrepreneur Maurice Flanagan $10 million and as many administrative facilities as possible. His goal? To launch an airline in 5 months that had to perform well and make money. There would be no subsidies or extra protection. The company had to fly, excuse the pun, on its own. And boy, did it deliver. Today, Emirates is one of the largest and most profitable airlines in the world. It operates in 148 airports around the world, and in 2022, despite the industry still reeling from the effects of the pandemic, it earned almost $3 billion. But above all, Emirates has made Dubai one of the best connected places in the world. This has made it easier for workers, entrepreneurs, investors, and of course, tourists to come to this city. Take a look.
August 7th, 2023, Dubai welcomes over 8.55 million visitors in 6 months, surpassing pre-pandemic levels.
And so, along with special economic zones, low taxes, and legal certainty, Dubai's success has another key ingredient: the entrepreneurial spirit of its government. The key word here is entrepreneurial. Not to create inefficient and elephantine state-owned companies, but to promote the creation of companies that, while promoting the local economy, need to make money and be very competitive, whatever the cost. But that's not even all. The idea of the entrepreneurial state goes much further. In Dubai, the vast majority of projects go ahead if they are likely to be profitable, and the government also supports private companies. For example, one of its latest initiatives has been to launch a fund of almost $300 million to encourage 1,000 technology startups to set up in Dubai. So, as you can see, we can almost say that this Emirate city functions more like a company than a conventional government. And certainly today, its success is undeniable. Of course, this is not a unique case. Singapore's success also has a lot in common with Dubai's. Let's check it out.
The city of Merlion.
In 1942, the Japanese took control of the British enclave of Singapore. It is a strategically located city, which the British Empire had turned into an important naval base, and which suffered greatly during the Second World War. Well, by the end of that war, this city was a disaster. The damage suffered was enormous. Many, if not most, infrastructure was destroyed, and mortality, violence, and corruption rates were sky high. Singapore was a very poor city, where virtually no one in their right mind would want to live. And you know what? the future didn't look much better. As it turned out, the Korean War and the global demand for tin and rubber made things better, and Singapore regained its role as a trading port, but little else. There was even the threat of a communist revolution in the city. In 1958, the city achieved full autonomy, and in 1963, after declaring its definitive independence from the British Empire, it was integrated into Malaysia. However, things did not work out. In 1965, the Malaysian Federation threw Singapore out, and so the country would begin its journey alone, which was not particularly optimistic. Singapore was basically an impoverished island with no natural resources. It did not even have enough drinking water to supply its population. Water had to be imported from Malaysia. These days, of course, things are totally different. Over the following 60 years, Singapore experienced an unprecedented boom that has led it to become the 4th richest country in the world, a tremendously prosperous place with one of the highest standards of living on the planet. Of course, as we've already told you on VisualPolitik, openness to foreign investment, a high level of legal certainty, relatively low taxes, and a clear vocation for savings were key elements. However, Singapore's success has also had another ingredient. As we've seen in the case of Dubai, the government of Singapore also had a clear entrepreneurial calling. In 1974, the Singapore government founded Temasek, a kind of sovereign wealth fund or investment arm that today manages assets worth almost $300 billion. That is more than $50,000 per citizen. The most curious thing, however, is that the Singapore government created this financial vehicle to bring together state-owned companies and to keep politicians and civil servants away from them. The idea at the time was that the 35 companies owned by or receiving participation from the state would function as true private companies, even though they still belonged to the state. That was the beginning. But then with reinvested profits, they started investing in new businesses to fuel their growth. Up until 2002, Temasek concentrated the vast majority of its investments in Singapore, but then they started investing in the rest of the world, particularly in Asia. The idea is that these investments in foreign companies created or strengthened corporate ties with Singapore itself. For example, almost a quarter of all their investments are in China. As it turned out, over the years, Temasek not only made it possible to professionalize state-owned companies, but it has also become a huge piggy bank for the government and has helped to propel a lot of new companies, especially in sectors considered strategic for the city. Do you remember what we said about Emirates before? Well, something similar happened in Singapore. Temasek is the largest shareholder of Singapore Airlines, holding 55% of the shares. With its help, this airline not only connected Singapore with the rest of the world, but also became one of the most reputable airlines. And what is even better is that it also became one of the most valuable and profitable airlines on the planet. The estimated profit for 2023 is close to $2 billion, and the same could be said of many other companies. VisualPolitik viewers, with these kinds of strategies, both Dubai and Singapore achieved several objectives. Firstly, they filled some important gaps, such as communications. Secondly, they contributed to the professionalization of state-owned companies.
One of the tragic illusions that many countries of the third world entertain is the notion that politicians and civil servants can successfully perform entrepreneurial functions. It is curious that, in the face of overwhelming evidence to the contrary, the belief persists.
Thirdly, they helped boost and develop a lot of economic sectors, which in turn attracted a lot of foreign companies and professionals. In other words, by themselves. These investment arms have driven and still drive a lot of foreign investment. And lastly, they have created a huge piggy bank that generates billions of dollars in profits each year. And don't forget that we are talking about two relatively small territories. Dubai has a population, including all foreign professionals, of only about 3.5 million people. Singapore, in contrast, about 5.5 million. And yet the numbers we are looking at are formidable. Not surprisingly, in addition to creating these investment arms, both governments opened their doors wide to foreign companies and promoted entrepreneurship like there was no tomorrow. So the question we can ask ourselves is, could this same model be replicated to help develop much poorer regions? Would it be possible to create similar cities in places like Africa or even Latin America? And remember that this is no trivial matter. For instance, the lack of legal security, openness, and connectivity currently make Miami the headquarters for the Latin American activities of more than 1,400 multinationals. If Latin America were as business friendly as Dubai or Singapore, it's quite possible that the vast majority of these multinationals would not not be in Miami, but in that other city. On the other hand, while Dubai and Singapore have built huge piggy banks that have also promoted economic development, Latin American commodity exporting countries have not been so lucky. Of course, Venezuela is a textbook example. We're talking about tens of billions of dollars that were squandered instead of contributing to national development. Be that as it may, at this point, it's all over to you. What do you think of the entrepreneurial governance model of Dubai and Singapore? Do you think that formulas like these could be replicated in Latin America or Africa? You leave us your answers in the comments. And I hope that you found this new partnership between VisualPolitik and Harvard International Review as interesting as we did. If so, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you have not already done so. Thank you so very much for watching. All the best. We'll see you next time.